My man.
I give you a mean drop on the ground.
Did you flash the rollie?
Hey,
Did you flash that rollie?
yeah, you know.
The number 2 rollie around?
We got some Rolexes. What you?
Superfights 2026 sounds like a fan poster, but if you break down the hype and look at specific dates and statuses, the picture becomes much more interesting. Jon Jones, Alex Pereira, Conor McGregor, 3 names, 3 different trajectories, one and the same fork in the road, where hype meets opportunity. As of October 7th, 2025, we have confirmed statements, recent fights, contracts, and a media market that is pushing for Superfights in 2026, especially against the backdrop of the UFC's 7-year, $7 billion deal with Paramount, which launches in the US in 2026, where numbered tournaments and fight nights are moving to Paramount Plus, and top cards will be duplicated on CBS, meaning that the reach and money for mega events are objectively growing, and the appetites of the stars along with them. Now for the theses. The first and most talked about is Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall or Alex Pereira. From a sporting point of view, the fight that must happen is Jones versus Aspinall, but it is also the most fragile. On June 21st, 2025, Dana White publicly announced that Jones had officially hung up his gloves.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
And Aspinall had gone from interim champion to full heavyweight champion. These are not rumors, but the words of the promotion's head, recorded in leading publications. Then the usual MMA smokescreen began. In September, Jones announced that he had not retired, was training 5 days a week, was in the anti-doping pool, and wanted to get on the White House lawn in July. At the same time, White said again in other interviews that no, he had ended his career and the White House card was not in the plans. This is classic media bargaining, where one side raises the stakes and the other keeps the field open until the puzzle is solved. The fact remains, as of fall 2025, there are no official bookings for Jones at either MSG or the White House, although his personal rhetoric of "I'm not done" is getting louder and louder. I would rate the chances of Jones versus Aspinall in 2026 as moderate, based on 3 criteria: Jones's health after a series of breakdowns and off-octagon stories, the UFC's willingness to take risks with the main title lineup, and a new media format that requires showcase fights on CBS.
I'm gonna make him my wife.
If all 3 lights come on, this fight instantly becomes the main event of the year, but only until Jones himself hits the brakes. Option 2 is Jones versus Pereira. If Aspinall and Jones have their own unresolved sporting mathematics, then in terms of a cross-weight super fight, it is Pereira who is the logical opponent for Jones in 2026, and logical not only in terms of sport, but also in terms of television. Over the past year and a half, Alex has become a highlight reel. The knockout of Procaz at UFC 303, then the return of the light heavyweight title with a quick finish of Magomed Ankalaev in just a minute and a half.
Right hand. Ankalaev immediately shoots. He hurt him bad. Ankalaev covering up. Big crowd.
This is a rare case where the knockout king at 205 pounds looks convincing, not only as a champion, but also as a potential guest in the heavyweight division.
Ooh.
Alex himself has repeatedly fueled interest in the idea of moving up to heavyweight, and after UFC 320, he again made it clear that he is serious about the super fight with Jones. Although he is going to patch up his injuries, he spoke of a possible foot fracture sustained in the fight. If medical scans confirm that surgery is not necessary, the window for Summerfall 2026 is quite realistic, especially since the new UFC television architecture will be asking for precisely such crossover matchups. The ceiling for this fight is a textbook PPV benchmark from the pre-Paramount Plus era, only now in the streaming dimension and with a possible showcase on CBS. In terms of chances, this is perhaps the most marketable option involving Jones. The third matchup is Pereira versus Aspinall. This is less of a media drama than the Jones fight, but potentially a more feasible matchup, considering that Tom is the reigning king of the division and Alex has already beaten the top fighters in 205 twice before our eyes. The question is how the UFC balances the risks. Aspinall is at his peak, and the heavyweight division has only just arrived at a clear hierarchy after long postponements and title replacements. Putting the heavyweight champion against a light heavyweight, even a monster like Potan, always risks disrupting the logistics of the organization's own network. On the other hand, 2026 is the launch year for a new distribution model, and a showcase crossover could be the perfect pilot for CBS. This super option is heavily dependent on Pereira's health status by spring 2026, and whether the UFC UFC is willing to sacrifice a clean heavyweight circuit for a one-off super crossover. The probability is average, but growing as Alex continues to knock down doors with highlights. Now about Conor McGregor. The loudest microphone in sports, 4 years without a fight by 2026, endless reports and promises. In June 2024, his comeback against Michael Chandler fell through, officially due to a broken toe. Then there were press activity cancellations, unresolved issues with the testing pool, and then a return there in the summer of 2025, which the media reported. Since then, Conor has been pushing the White House card theme, sending signals about 6 months of isolation and training camp, periodically saying the deal is done. But Dana White publicly cools things down every time. No card has been formed yet, negotiations will only begin in February, and there are no specific matches. This is important. When we say McGregor's super fight in 2026, we are talking about 3 different scenarios. A fight with Chandler as a logical conclusion to the Gestalt, a fight with a veteran for a soft comeback, or a show comeback against the backdrop of the White House with a deliberately soft sporting part and maximum media coverage. The chances that Conor will fight in 2026 are high. The chances that it will be on the lawn are noticeable, but not 100. The chances that Chandler will be his opponent are still higher than any new surprises, because the story is well known and understandable to the viewer. Why is everyone waiting for 2026? The answer is simple. The new media deal requires symbols. If in the era of classic PPV, the main currency was broadcast purchase figures and international slots, then in 2026, the UFC gets a giant streaming screen, plus free airtime on CBS, where every minute of primetime is more expensive than was customary in the fighting world. This changes the motivation for promotion. In the year of the ecosystem's relaunch, it makes sense to look toward the Superfight poster, rather than locally strong but niche title holders. That's why we're hearing more and more speculation about the White House, Jones, and Pereira's cross-weight fights. At the same time, the UFC machine itself never puts the entire season on one card. Divisions and mandatory contenders will be built in parallel, because the stability of the grid is the key to subscriptions on the platform. Therefore, Superfights are given the green light when they don't break the calendar, but become its showcase. McGregor on the White House lawn sounds like the perfect trailer for a new era, but it's politically and organizationally more complicated than any regular PvP event. So get ready for a call in February when negotiations begin in earnest. In all these calculations, it is important to remember that Alex Pereira is currently the most reliable generator of events among the 3. His only stopping factor is his health. But even with that, he has returned faster than many predict. So, if we had to choose one super thesis for the video, it would be this. In 2026, the most feasible project looks to be a cross-weight project involving Alex Pereira, whether against Jones or against the current heavyweight champion. Conor's comeback is real, but its exact form depends on who is willing to sign the paper, not the tweet. And the Jones-Aspinall line still smacks of an unresolved debt to the division, but that debt can only be paid off under one condition, which changes every week in the news. And as long as this variable continues to exist, we will have enough reasons to discuss super fights to last an entire season of a new television era.